Finally,
Yo,
Neven, my
can you
friend.
hear me and see me?
Wait a second. Let me unpin myself so that I can see you better. Yeah, this is much better.
True.
All right, Neven. So I just want you to know that this meeting is being recorded, and you've made a bunch of stories about me, man. Something happened to you in the last couple of hours, and all your stories just feature me. And you made a lot of attacks, a lot of postal attacks. What's your problem, man? What's the matter?
I just dislike when people share a lot of misinformation because, I'm putting out educative content and, my followers send me stuff like this because it makes them insecure about, is soy really toxic? Is this guy speaking with so much confidence? Like there must be something to it, right? So they ask me. So I have to basically show them that you're not a good source of
Understood.
knowledge.
All right. So you're a very passionate professional, and when you saw that I am a strong advocate for not consuming soy products, it upset you. That's why you made the postal attacks, and you think whatever I'm promoting is misinformation. So take it away, my friend. Please help me and everyone else who will be watching this video. Please point to the misinformation that I've shared. I'd love to know the extent of the misinformation that I have shared.
Basically, first off, it didn't, there's no emotion in this. I just always try to make the content a bit comedic. Like these insults, like I hope you didn't take them seriously because it's just Instagram at the end of the day. But you know, I've seen a couple of your posts saying that eating soy is not a wise option, and I would like to know why.
See, I've already helped people understand why, and I've shared a lot in the way of data. This is my fifth debate on soy. So I'd like to know, since you've attacked my information, are you familiar with the extent of the information that I've shared about soy?
I've went through like I've scrolled through like 50 posts. I've just seen like a handful on them, to be honest. But it was quite clear. A follower sent me your story highlight where you talk about soy. And why do you think that soy is dangerous? Like, what is this about?
Because the empirical data which we have on soy points to the fact that there are numerous downsides to consuming soy. And we do have research, and I have linked to that research, which is the exact reason why I asked if you are actually familiar with the extent of the information that I've shared on soy. And maybe you aren't. Okay, so what we can do is I can point you to my Instagram, and I've this is not the entirety of the literature that we have against soy, but it's a good place to start. So let me
But
just link
let
you
me
to.
ask you, have you read the recent research on soy?
I'm the world's foremost expert on soy. I have read all the research on soy. So
I
are
very
you?
much doubt that.
No.
I
So
have a couple studies open here, so I can debunk anything you throw at me,
awesome. Please,
basically.
please offer a study. Go ahead. Offer one.
In what kind of context? What do you want to see? Soy
So
lowering testosterone?
so
Anything
what?
specific?
Yeah, we can start with the testosterone function. But you know what I'll do? I'll just point you to my position and some of the literature which I have shared with regards to soy, because I'm
Yes,
pretty
please.
sure you haven't chanced by it. So I'll help you have a look, and we can start from there, and then you can help me understand why you still think that soy is an okay food to consume.
I
So I'm
think, but
hoping.
my opinion is solely derived on the scientific body of evidence.
Of
So I'm
course, I
not
just
just looking
see.
at single studies, but I've looked at studies regarding soy. regarding the nutrients individually, regarding the targets and the mechanisms. And then I've also looked at epidemiological studies. So to me, it's very
Goes-
clear.
It goes without saying, if you're going to offer a position, then that position should only be substantiated by data and data alone. So I have nothing for or against soy emotionally. I'm a professional, and I've shared a link with you, and
Hold
that link.
on, let me see if I can click it without, closing this. Yes, perfect.
And for those of you, those people who are watching the recording, you probably have access to this link as well. Most people have probably seen
Yes,
this.
I'm opening it right now in another tab, so I'm reading it. Give me a second.
Yeah, sure. So, can we at least agree that there is a lot of literature which highlights the downsides of soy consumption? We can come to the literature which highlights the potential benefits of soy consumption, but can we at least agree that there is data which
Yes,
shows
yes,
that
of
we should
course.
be concerned about soy?
I completely agree that there is in certain context it can be it can be the wrong food for some people. But if we are looking at the fitness and athletics community in general, it just appears to me, based on the scientific literature, that soy is one of the best protein sources we can eat, basically.
So, since you mentioned fitness and training related literature, the first two studies which I have shared are by Wolik and Kramer, and both of them were on resistance trained individuals. So we have data which shows that soy given to people who engage in resistance training isn't a great protein source, both from the perspective of improving muscle function and muscle growth, as well as reproductive function and testosterone function too.
The thing is, the evidence, still see me, right? The evidence points, the newer evidence basically debunks the whole soy lowers testosterone thing. Like, I have a couple
What
studies
is the
over
evidence?
here. What?
I have shared links. I have shared data. I would like to now see your data, which you think
Okay,
is,
let me send you it. 1 second.
yeah. So what we need to establish now is that we've established one thing, that there is definitely literature on soy, which is concerning. So what you need to do right now is you need to not just show data which highlights the positives of soy, but that data should be overwhelming to the extent that we can safely then conclude that it is okay to discard the downsides of the literature that we see on soy.
Yes,
Because
give me 1 second. Like, that's why I asked for some time to prepare. I didn't just want to come without evidence, since I planned to release a video on soy anyway, because it's so misunderstood.
right. So you can just drop the links in the chat.
Yeah, it's a bunch of so there's already two. Like, I have many arguments against this directly.
Okay, so let me have a look. Okay, I share the Catherine Reed meta, which I've already addressed numerous times. I was expecting the Catherine Reed meta and the Hamilton reviews meta. Okay, so um Firstly, since you shared the Catherine Reed meta, I'd like to bring to your attention that the Catherine Reed meta, the 2020 meta-analysis.
Hold on, my camera disconnected. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes, it's back.
Yeah, you're back. So you share two links, okay? And these are two links which I'm very familiar with. I've spoken about them ad nauseum. In fact, these are the two metas which are often shared in defense of soy. The 2010 meta-analysis and the 2020 meta-analysis, what you need to know about them is that the 2020 meta is an updated version of the 2010 meta. So if you're sharing the 2010, if you're sharing the 2020 meta, the 2010 meta is not null and void because it just builds on what we already have from 2010. And I think they added a few more studies to the mix and they tried to demonstrate that soy is safe to consume. Now, I've spoken at length about the problems with the meta-analyses, specifically in the realm of soy research. So I'll help you identify those limitations, at least for the 2020 meta, and those same limitations will also apply to the 2010 meta, because like I said, it's the 2021 is just an updated version of the 2010 one. So the first thing I want you to focus on are the names Jill Hamilton Reeves, Mindy Corso, and Mark Messina. Are you familiar with these names?
No, I don't pay attention to any names, to be honest.
Okay. The reason I asked you if you're familiar with those names is because Mark Messina, Mindy Corso, and Jill Hamilton Reeves are spokespersons for the soy industry. Off the top of my head, I believe Mark Messina has been working at the Soy Nutrition Institute for several years. And if you go through any review or any positive soy-related literature, which you'll find on any research database, the name Mark Messina frequently crops up. Mark Messina's got a lot of conflicts of interest, as does Mindy Corso and as does Jill Hamilton Reeves. Now, that is not the only reason why I'm dismissing the meta. There's a huge conflict of interest, and 3 of the 5 authors who we have listed in the 2020 meta have a huge conflict of interest. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about the meta as well. I'm not a big fan of sharing metas and reviews for the simple reason that a review of the literature is not literature. If you notice all the studies that I've linked to, they are original data. They are primary research.
Yeah, the thing is, we know by now the problem. Let me just identify the problems with soy for you. People can be allergic to soy. Most soy is refined junk food, and people with low hormones, they might react negatively to the phytoestrogens.
No, see, it's my job to elucidate on the downsides of soy. So you let me take care of that. The thing is that you have offered some links, and it's my job to help you understand why I do not consider those links as good as evidence for soy's positive health outcomes. Coming back to where we left off, the meta-analysis, the 2020 meta from Catherine Reed and colleagues. I'm not a big fan of meta-analyses and systematic reviews because a review of the literature is not new literature. I feel as professionals, instead of pointing to reviews and metas, we should look at the individual studies because it's the strength of the individual studies which actually determine the strength of the meta. And a lot of times when it comes to the inclusion criteria of the studies which are selected in the meta, the authors forcefully try to make it seem like the methodology is similar enough to include the different studies in the meta when the methodology is very different. So what I would like to see is, I'm absolutely fine with you starting with the meta, but I'd like you to actually pick out the individual. Just a second, let me finish. I'd like you to pick out the individual studies which make up the strength of the meta-analysis. And there's a very important reason for this. If you read the title of this meta carefully, it's neither soy nor isoflavone intake that affects male reproductive hormones. You do realize that they aren't just studying soy here. They've clubbed in a lot of other compounds which are similar to soy because their whole hypothesis is that it is the isoflavone intake, which is a problem. So along with the literature on soy, they've also added red clover. I think they've also added flax seeds, and they've also added isoflavone supplements. This is the reason why we cannot use a meta, because we need data on soy. So if you can pull out some data from the meta on soy, primary research, then we can have a productive conversation as to whether soy is good.
Yeah,
safe to consume.
basically, I present these as the tip of the iceberg, because if you really looked at the last, let's say, 3 years of research on soy, the mechanisms are now elucidated. We know why it increases testosterone in at least one way.
Firstly, about the last 3 years of research on soil, I don't think we need to appeal to recent literature, because old literature can be just as good, if not better, than recent literature, especially when the recent literature is a byproduct of soy industry funding. There will always be recent literature on soy because soy is heavily studied, because the industries which benefit from selling soy fund the research for soy. So every single year, we will see more positive data for soy. Like I said, the names which keep cropping up, Mindy Cursor, Hamilton Reeves, Mark Messina, they will keep sharing new research. But I do not see primary research, randomized control trials, which actually do a good enough job at discarding all the randomized control trials and all the other experiments which we have, which cast a negative light on soy. So if you can share a randomized control trial, that would be great. Right now, you just share the Catherine Reed meta, which I've spoken about ad nauseum, and I've covered in excruciating detail. And I want to know if you have an RCT, because I've shared RCTs and I've shared other primary literature as well.
So the thing why I start with this is, it basically shows you that the overwhelming evidence supports my stance from the get-go. Like,
No,
you cannot deny this if you look at the research.
You cannot pick.
And now,
you cannot cherry pick.
hold on, let me
byproduct of the soy industry to say that is overwhelming evidence. That's not overwhelming evidence. That's manufactured.
The thing is, I will now explain exactly why the findings are like that. Like, this is no secret, this is no rocket science. We understand exactly what is going on in the body when we ingest soy.
I don't care about the mechanisms. I care about health outcomes. Please show me the randomized control trials which demonstrate that soy is not disruptive of hormone function, to the extent that we can disregard all the literature which shows that soy truly is disruptive of hormone function. I'm not really interested in the mechanism. Like, I'm familiar with them, but the mechanisms do not matter. What matters is what happens when you consume soy.
So, okay, let's zoom out here. Basically, you refute scientific evidence because you dislike the authors. Then you also don't want to understand.
I don't dislike the authors.
Hold on, let me finish once.
But if you're going to stop, cut you off.
Then you also don't want to understand how things actually work from, non-biased researchers, from, scientific institutes over the world. And then, like, I also have tons of animal and human and clinical study to support all my claims. But why don't you want to accept them? I don't understand.
Because
like, you cherry picked 4 studies or whatever. They're probably old and outdated. We now have better tools, better technology to analyze RNA protein content, stuff like that. We exactly know how things work now. The meta-analysis show exactly there is no need to worry about testosterone. Then we look at the mechanisms. They show, soy lecithin actually increases testosterone.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a very simple question. what matters more? Mechanisms, the hypothesis via which something may work, or what actually happens when people consume soy? What is more valuable? Experimental empirical data or mechanistic data as far as determining whether something is safe to consume for humans or not?
This is the part that most non-scientific people don't understand. We first look at the effects, at the outcomes that we observe, and then later we look at why. So you are stuck here, you don't want to accept this, yet you don't want to move further into the topic to really understand it.
Where am
And
I
you
stuck?
just
See, Neven, you're just rambling. You've not offered anything. I want to understand where exactly am I stuck. Firstly, you keep straw manning me and you keep attacking me. There's no reason to do that. You keep mentioning that I do not like the authors when that's not true. I've helped you understand why you should be skeptical of the data which comes from these specific authors because they have a conflict of interest.
I
I
just let me
have
just
shared
finish.
studies with you, and you have accepted that there is concern. Those studies demonstrate concern. Are you able to share studies which help offset that concern to the extent that we can disregard the studies which demonstrate concern? See, Neven, you have to do two things. Okay. If you say that I am cherry picking research, then I can say that right back at you, that you are cherry picking research to show positive outcomes of soy. But your responsibility as far as cherry picking is concerned is greater than mine. Because in order to communicate to the world that something is safe to consume, you can't just say that we have data which shows that it's safe to consume and we also have data which shows that it isn't safe to consume. If the two kind of cancel each other out, then better safe than sorry, or on the side of caution, and do not consume it till we know more. You
But
have
you
to
don't
your job is to show overwhelming data, a lot of data, a mountain of data, which does not just support soy for its virtues, but is also able to offset all these red flags which we have, which are
yeah,
incredibly
that's
concerning.
right. That's exactly what I'm doing, but I think you're too close-minded. You think you're smarter than
Again, why would
everyone.
straw man? I'm not attacking you, Neven. Why do you keep saying I'm close-minded, and why do you keep saying all of that? Why can't we
I
just have a
mean,
scientific discussion?
I'm
See, if you
just
keep
copy
attacking
pasting you
me,
the
then
studies.
I'll be more to attack you back.
Please attack me. I
Demonstrate,
don't mind.
demonstrate how I'm close-minded. Don't just keep rambling. You shared a bunch of links. What do you want me to open first? Tell me.
I'm sharing you the overwhelming evidence of why the soy concerns are basically memes.
Oh, all right, all right. So let's say how we started. I shared human trials. I shared Wolik, Gooden, Kramer, Hop, Habito, a few case studies, and I shared Ishizuki. Outside of the case studies, most of the trials which I have shared are done in healthy humans, and most of them are randomized controlled trials. And most of them highlight that soy is incredibly concerning. So let us see how you try to offset that data. You started with the metas. I responded to the metas and I helped you understand why those metas can't be taken seriously. So now I'm going to click on the next link and I'm going to quickly comment on all the links which you shared. Now you shared something on rabbits, semen quality, testosterone, seminal plasma, biochemical and antioxidant profiles of rabbit pups, fed diet supplemented with different
Yeah,
concentrations.
that's the thing. I just share everything with you because I know that you hold a wrong point. So there must be some kind of reason why you think that way.
No, you can't just make up your mind and say that I am wrong, or you have to demonstrate it. So I am actually going through the literature which you're pulling out, and the first study after the reviews that you shared is a rabbit study. So I do not think you can.
Just take 10 minutes, skim through the research I sent you. Like 5 of them is clinical research, preclinical research. Like these are not case studies like yours. Just look at the
Okay,
body of evidence, not
I'm going
just
to.
cherry pick.
No, I'm not. And my friend, what are you doing? Are you sharing Kramer with me? Are you sharing Gooden with me? Are you sharing Oleg with me? Because you are cherry picking just as much as I'm cherry picking. Now, like I said, the burden of proof actually lies with you. You have to cherry pick enough, substantially, overwhelmingly, to the extent that you have to show that my cherry picking, whatever cherry picking I've done, is not concerning enough, because your cherry picking is so immense, it's so vast, and there's so much positive literature on soy. We started with the rabbit study. Okay, I'm going to very quickly opine on all the
Hold
studies.
on. Let me find a passage of a study, because I accidentally closed my tabs before. I had like everything, that you could understand it, hopefully.
So you shared the same study twice. You shared the rabbit study twice. That's your third link. Grandparent rooster fed diets. Now you shared a rooster study. I'm not saying that the rooster studies aren't valuable. I'm just helping you understand that if I'm going to share human RCTs, then a rooster study, a rabbit study, a study on postmenopausal women, these aren't great populations to at least begin to refute the literature that I've shared. And then you share a bunch of tables. I'm not entirely sure why you're doing that. I'd rather just see the data. I think that's a good place to begin. What else do we have? Postmenopausal women again. I think you shared that same study twice too. One's a PubMed link, one's another link. Soy and gastrointestinal health, again, you shared a review. Okay, I want to see human RCTs, which match the quality of the RCTs which I've shared. You shared another review, benefits of soybean in the era of precision medicine.
I mean, I sent you all these reviews. Just look at the citation. There's plenty of them there.
I know those citations because I've actually studied those reviews. I want to know if you studied the reviews thoroughly enough such that you can point me to the citations. I know the citations. I've been through all the citations. I'm thorough with the literature. But you can't just throw a review at me without knowing those individual studies.
I closed my tabs because we had to switch to Zoom. So hold on. I got the right study now. Now just looking for the line.
Now we have something in chronic kidney disease patients. I've got all these studies saved. You know what? I'm actually going to save all of them. I'm going to share all of them. And then we got like.
So here, let me explain why those old, outdated studies are basically meaningless. Here,
which outdated studies? Name one outdated study and tell me why it's outdated.
Because we know that soybean is not, like, the observation is that it does not lower testosterone. You cannot change the observation. Like, how do you think it works?
How have you deciphered that is the observation when I have pointed you to literature which observes exactly what you're trying to say isn't being observed? Kramer observed a reduction in testosterone. The case study observed a reduction in testosterone. We've seen a reduction in muscle growth in Wolig, reduction in testosterone in Habito, reduction in testosterone in Gooden, reduction in testosterone in Thorpe. So how can you say that there is no reduction in testosterone?
Yeah, but those are a handful of studies when 95% of the studies show that isn't true.
How did you come up with that 95% number? Where did you pull that out from?
I lowballed it because I looked at the research.
And you just magically came up with that 95% number? Are those your standards for reviewing literature? You just randomly come up with 95%. Come on, man, do better. Like, see, Neven, I'm not very impressed. Okay, I'm disappointed with what you.
Hold on. Let me summarize this. Basically, you have a bunch of studies. I don't know from when. You didn't link any studies. Actually, you posted an Instagram.
No. See, I'm not going to.
Hold on. Let me finish. You posted an Instagram post, which I looked at, saw like some small citations there, but then you completely ignore
It is a collection.
meta-analysis,
You haven't opined on those
review.
studies by work.
Can I please finish?
have commented on the studies.
Can I finish?
Please.
Then you ignore meta-analysis, you ignore clinical studies, you ignore the mechanisms.
You don't ignore anything.
You
I
ignore
help
the
you
science.
understand why you cannot
ignore
rely
the
on that
biology
meta-analysis.
behind it.
Ignoring would be if I did not say anything about the meta-analysis. I helped you understand why we cannot take that meta-analysis seriously. So I did not ignore anything. And right now, I'm actually pretty
The
disappointed
thing
with the fact
is, what you gotta see it from my point of view. You think soy is dangerous
I'm interested in
because
your
you do
point
not.
of view. I'm interested
Can I
in an intelligent, scientific point of view, which you're not offering right now. And you wasted a lot of time.
Can I finish? Can you stop interrupting me?
Go ahead, finish.
Basically, you don't understand the biology behind it and cling to old studies for some reason because
Wait a
that's your
second.
biased
How did
view.
you conclude that I do
And
not
just
understand?
because you do not understand how these
How?
things work,
Demonstrate it.
which we
Demonstrate
know,
that I do not understand the
can you
biology.
stop
Name one
interrupting me for one
biological mechanism
second?
which I do not understand. You just speak. When you speak, here's how debates work. When you make a claim, you have to offer reason, evidence, logic to support that claim. All you are doing is rambling. You haven't done this, you haven't done that, you're ignoring stuff, you don't like authors. All of this is
I
hogwash.
would
You haven't
educate
demonstrated
you if you would just, stop interrupting me. I can exactly explain you why you are wrong biologically, chemistry, and physically. Like, just because you do not understand something doesn't mean that it's harmful.
Show me one clear-cut instance where I'm wrong, where I've said something where I'm wrong. Sure, please go ahead.
You think that soy is dangerous.
And I have shared reasons and evidence to support why it's dangerous. So please do not just speak in circles. Please point to the deficits in my reasoning, to the deficits in my evidence, which I have shared with you.
The flaw in your logic is that you simply exclude the vast body of scientific literature and just look at like 3-5 studies. Have you even read them fully?
No, that's not true. I shared a bunch of studies with you, and I said that this is a start. We can use these to help you understand where my stance is coming from, and I can share a lot more. And I've also been open to having a look at the literature which you shared. You started off with a review, and I helped you understand why I'm not a big fan of reviews. And you shared a lot of animal data, and I helped you understand why, at least in this context, we can't disregard the human RCTs by appealing to a bunch of animal data. So right now, the quality of the studies which you are sharing do not match the quality of the studies which I am sharing. And you really haven't done anything in the way of refuting at least the literature that I have shared. So can you at least do that? Can you at least highlight the deficits in the literature that I have shared? Because I've done that with the literature that you've shared.
I don't have to. You simply choose to ignore the evidence, the whole body of evidence.
Familiar with it. The evidence that you've shared, I'm actually familiar with. So you can't say that I'm ignoring it. I'm actually more familiar.
So let me ask you one thing.
The Hamilton Reviews meta than you are. You didn't even know that the Catherine Reed meta, the updated version of the Hamilton Reviews meta. The very fact that you shared those two links goes to show how little you know about the literature on soy.
Let me ask you one thing.
That's what an amateur does. Anyone who shares the Catherine Reed meta, who's even reasonably familiar with the literature on soy, will not share the Hamilton Reviews meta, because the Catherine Reed meta is simply an updated version of the Hamilton Reviews meta. So the first two links you shared demonstrated how ignorant you are of the literature on soy. And now I'm bored and I'm disappointed.
And I ask you one thing though.
There's nothing. You offered nothing so far. And I've made a call.
I ask you one thing though. Like, if soy is dangerous, why it is in newer research looked at functional food and is being turned into medicine? So that kind of doesn't make sense.
No, because just because there is a compound which can be extracted and purified and isolated at a very specific dose, which may be therapeutic for certain clinical populations, does not mean that the source of that compound in its entirety with all the other compounds that are present are suitable for consumption for human health. I mean, you take medicine. Just because we may extract some medicinal compound from some plant, does it mean that that entire plant is safe to consume? In fact, most of the plants which we extract medicinal compounds from, the entirety of the plant is actually poisonous. It isn't safe to consume. But we've identified one compound which may be therapeutic in a particular context. Does not mean everyone has to consume that compound, and most certainly does not mean that everyone has to consume the entirety of the food source that that compound comes from.
I understand, bro. I think your IQ is simply too low. That is the problem. Like, you ignore the evidence, you ignore the clinical research, and you don't understand the biology. Like, from what place are you coming from?
Where does your IQ come from, buddy?
It's genetics, bro. Like,
exactly. So you're sitting here and you're flexing your genetics. I'll accept. Here's the thing. I don't remember what my exact number is, but if I am less genetically blessed than you and I have a lower IQ than you and I'm still pasting you here, what does that say about your IQ? Maybe you aren't making mom and dad proud, right? Maybe you did not use that IQ to the best of your ability. Shame on your IQ. Okay, here's what you do, Neven. I've shared a bunch of literature with you. Go through it, study it, make whatever video you want. You have to. Right now, you're just quite inadequate and you're very unfamiliar.
All right, bro. I will keep in mind, like, thanks for the free promo, though. I will keep in mind that stupid people, you just can't convince them. Like, just because you do not, because you do not understand something doesn't mean that it isn't true.
I'm not going to let you speak and insult me. So we've got the recording. I'm going to put this up. And
I mean, the evidence is right there.
We'll let the world decide what came out of this. Okay. Now, if you want to share all these links,
subscribe to my IG, Suat and my, and stop this pseudoscience nonsense. Fuck this bitch with his ball tattoo. See ya.
Oh, see, yeah. So fuck this bitch with the bald head. So yeah, that's what tends to happen in debates. And maybe I was a little hurried in this debate and I was a little annoyed because I waited for an awfully long time for this guy to show up, and all he has to link to are the reviews which I've already opined on, and rooster and rabbit and animal studies and post-menopausal studies. And I'm not just criticizing these studies based on the populations, but if I'm going to share RCTs on healthy resistance trained individuals, and I expect you to share data which competes methodologically with those RCTs that I've shared. Anyway, I'm closing this. I'll save it, put it up on YouTube. And Pratik, Akshay, thanks for joining. And I'll see you on YouTube. Good night.
Good night, Aman.